line here on Deace in the afternoon. Mike, as you look at the 2010 election results in Iowa, what do you think they mean about what will be the key issues in the 2012 Iowa caucuses?
Well, I think the most significant election, not just in Iowa, but one of the most in the entire country, was the rejection of the three Supreme Court justices. This was huge. First time since the 1960s, when the system in Iowa was created, that Iowa voters just didn't routinely keep judges. And it was not because the judges didn't campaign and, people can come up with whatever they want. It's because people are sick to death of one branch of government thinking that it is more powerful than the other two put together. If people would go back and read the Federalist Papers and read the origins of this country, they would clearly understand that the judicial branch is not only just one of three equal in power, but the founders really looked at it as the least powerful because it was less directly represented by the people. And so I'm always amazed when people act like that the Supreme Court is important as it is, and I'm not dismissing it, but for anyone to think that somehow we ought to bow to the whims of a Supreme Court as if they matter more than anything is absurd.
How does that play into what would a potential role for you as a president? You've been a chief executive as a governor. You've run for chief executive as a president. You may do that again. In light of what you just said, how would that play out in terms of the way you would govern when it came to issues that have been determined, rightly or wrongly, by the Supreme Court, whether that would be life, whether that would be private property rights, etc.? How does that play out for you as president, given what you just articulated?
A president has certainly got to respect a ruling of a court. But if the ruling of the court is wrong, and it's fundamentally wrong, and you have two branches of government that determines that it's wrong, then those other two branches supersede the one. We have come to a place where if you have one branch of government, i.e. the Supreme Court, coming with a ruling, at times you have often the legislative and judicial, and the executive branches acting as if that they shrug their shoulders and say we're powerless. No, actually they're not. And of course you would seek to appoint justices who believe that the Constitution was there to define law, not to merely offer some suggestions that we could constantly change for the whims of 9 people in black robes. But it also would indicate that the two branches of government, legislative and executive, have every right to make it clear to the Supreme Court that their interpretation is wrong. And whether they do that by constitutional amendment to spell it out to the court, or by a passage of a further amplification of law, there are many means I think at hand to do that.
I'm interested in the dynamic at Fox News. I've wanted to ask you about this for the last couple of years. I mean, you have people there who were outright, like Sean Hannity, who were just outright cheerleaders to the point of being groupies for a campaign rival in Mitt Romney. The network is clearly giving a lot of coverage to Sarah Palin, and you well know she has celebrity. You have a weekly show that gets good ratings for the network. You get a lot of exposure on the network as well. I'm just wondering, is this just a fraternity of people who are looking to run for president and everybody gets along? Is it awkward? I've never seen a dynamic like this before.
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people don't understand that there is a very thick wall of concrete between the news divisions and the program divisions at Fox. I'll give an example. Program hosts, and that would include Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, Mike Huckabee, for that matter. Nobody pretends that we're journalists. We don't pretend it, but network doesn't pretend it, nor does it portray the programs that we do under the programming division of Fox as objective news. Now, if one watches Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, or if they watch Brett Baer, Special Report, or if they watch Shepard Smith, those are news programs. They are under a different division. They answer to a different supervisor and boss. There is a level of objectivity that is distinct. And quite frankly, there's very little intercontact between those two divisions. There is some, but it's more incidental than it is purposeful. And there is, as far as I've been there, I've never been issued an edict that said, this is the point of view that we want you to take because it's our point of view.
You ever been tempted to issue your own edict to your own people there and said, hey, such and such is reporting this, I don't know that that's factually accurate, or you mentioned yourself that your own network doesn't mention that you finished second actually in the delegate count in the last election. You ever fired off a memo or anything to any of the higher-ups and saying, hey, thought we were supposed to be on the same team here?
I have mentioned to some folks when they would make comments like that. And I think what happens is that whether it's in any news organization, sometimes if something is presented and it's presented as authoritative and nobody questions it, there's a sense of which it becomes conventional wisdom. It's sort of like if you read something on the Internet 3 times, you assume it must be true. Mm-hmm. And so, look, one of the realities, and this is not as true as Fox. Fox is very adamant about being factual. And so if somebody points out and says that was factually incorrect, I can assure you that there is a real attempt to say, get it right. And I know that we've had to issue on-air corrections, and shows are required to do that. If there's something that is factually incorrect, and I'm not talking about something that some liberal front group by George Soros like Media Matters comes out and doesn't like what maybe has been interpreted, but if it's a factual error, there is a requirement that it's addressed and corrected.
Okay. I got 20 seconds. Wes Enos, who worked for your campaign 2 years ago, on this show last week, said he thought it was at least 60-40 that you were going to run again in 2012. So I'm going to put the odds at 60% you're going to run. Are you taking the over or the under on that proposition?
I'm going to let Wes take the bets at this point. I'll just tell you, that nothing has been decided.
Okay.
And for me, it will be well into the year next year before a final decision is made. I am honestly looking at the prospects. It is not a door that I have closed, and it's a door that I'm definitely keeping open, and I'll see where it leads.
All right, Mike, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We'll see you on Sunday.
Great to talk to you, Steve. Thanks.
All right, take care. God bless. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee will get some analysis.